Food is never just food. Food is just the appetizer. Connection is the multi-course meal we're actually sitting down for. So pull up a chair. You're at the table with us. Today's memory archive that we're exploring is one of my bestest friends in the whole wide world, somebody that I feel inspired by, somebody that has completely taken the world by storm and totally didn't even want to. His name is Troy Johnson. Of course, he's known as a Food Network judge, an award-winning food writer. But Troy, the reason why we're here is not because I want to know all about your background the way that you usually get asked. I mean, people come on podcasts all the time, right?
Sure.
And they always ask the same questions. For chefs, it's what do you like to cook? You know, is Gordon Ramsay really that mean?
Is Guy's hair real? Yeah.
Is your hair real?
Is my hair real?
Do you pump this on your...
I was 11 pounds, 4 ounces at birth. It was a natural birth. What? It was not a C-section. I apologize to my mom in my head every single morning. It's like a morning prayer, you know, and I think 9 pounds of it was hair.
All right, Troy, here on Bitefully, we do this thing where I am going to ask you to indulge me. Close your eyes for me.
Okay.
And paint a picture for me.
Okay.
Where are we? Who's there? We're talking about your first food memory, the food memory, the one that takes you back, and that is your first connection to an ingredient, to food, to whatever. Who's there? What are you looking at? What are you smelling? And more importantly, what are you eating?
My first food memory, and this is the most un-Alice Waters answer that you're going to get on this podcast, is it's me alone in my kitchen as a latchkey kid in the 80s.
Okay.
And I have pizza rolls in the oven. I've got top ramen, which I just figured out how to make on the stove, and it smells like MSG and salt and love, self-love, because I was raised by a single mom.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, food for me was just it was an executive function.
Yeah.
It was nothing to romanticize. It was
Yeah.
nothing to, and I think that's why I eventually fell in love with food, because it was ants on a log. It was whatever the front row of Costco was serving that day, because my mom was working her ass off, you know, trying to take care of 2 kids. We weren't packaged well out the gates. Let's just put it that way. We were rowdy kids. I had some opinions. I couldn't sit still. You know, I had ADHD.
Something's never changed.
Something's never changed. So it was so unromantic and it was so executive for me.
Yeah.
You know, it was just scramble and scrape. But I think a lot of kids in the 70s and 80s that were that way, because the United States came back from the war and there was, 2 incomes were required at that time for the first time in American history. So you know this. You've been a single parent. Yeah. You know, the time where you're like, look, I'm on my own. Here's a key, strap it around your neck, make do. All right, I've put all the simple things in the cupboards.
Yeah.
You know, and so the reason I think I fell in love with food later on so much, and my mom always says this, she goes, when people find out that, I've done Food Network and I've been a food writer for whatever, and they say, was he always into food? Wasn't he always? And they imagine me as this young, like making a beurre blanc, when I'm 7 years old.
No.
And I'm like, no. I'm like, my mom was a beautiful woman who knew how to operate a microwave and a drive-through window.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, when she always says, no, I think you learned how to cook in self-defense. Like that was it.
Damn.
Which is good, honestly, because I think that set a lack of pretension about food in me. And the reason why I never wanted to write about food is because I felt there was a bunch of snooty people sitting around an Aspen timeshare and a fire feature talking about microgreens way too affectionately.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I was like, God, I don't want to do this, And then I eventually found out, once I dug into it, that you can tell the entire world story: culture, history, religion, ecology, the world history you can tell through a plate of food.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why I got into it so much, and it was because, I didn't take it too pretentiously because I had such a blue-collar background of food.
One of our previous guests was Piet de Spain. She's the first winner of Next Level Chef. And she is a Mexican, American indigenous woman from the Potawatomi Nation in Kansas, right? In my head, I would think like she would have grown up with like all of this incredible indigenous foods. And she's like, no, girl, we grew up on struggle meals, and same kind of story where her mom was also a single mom. I grew up with a single mom as well. And I think like you start to see that, to your point, sometimes the most nostalgic meals. I love that you brought this up, because the reason why I started this podcast is because you and I both know we get to spend a lot of times around a lot of very influential chefs, a lot of the biggest names in food. and the whole culinary scene, right? Drinks and mixologists and all the things, right? Every time I would have a conversation with them and I asked them what their favorite meal was, it was never at the hands of a Michelin-starred chef with microgreens.
No.
It's always somehow always ties back to nostalgia and something that really is so much more ingrained in who they are and tells a story about where they come from. And usually if you can trace back where you come from, then you can tell kind of where you were going and where you've been. And through that, I think that clarifies so much for me as your friend of just why you are constantly just hustling, dude. You're like, without having to pay the rights for it, but like, he's like, every day I'm hustling, right? Like every freaking day. I mean, you like wake up hustling, you like go to sleep hustling. Like you are one of the biggest hustlers that I know that's constantly working to get his family ahead, to make a change in the community. I mean, you are truly so focused on community in more ways than just like, I'm a food writer, right?
The community for me has always been, building the place where you're at. To your point, I think this is the best bite of food, no matter how far you get in the food world. I know how many chefs we've been lucky to be around. The best bite of food is usually that simple thing on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Like that thing that you ate in a grassy spot with somebody you love, or the thing that you ate that really signifies your childhood. And for me, again, it was being a single kid. My mom was very present, but it was like self-resiliency.
Yeah.
And the
struggle meals, those survival
meals, man.
But those are the things that bring nostalgia, right? Like for me, I always joke when my friends are like, oh, but I feel scared to like cook for you. I'm like, why? One of my favorite things in the whole wide world is like Kraft mac and cheese, boxed mac and cheese. Like make me a box of Kraft mac and cheese and I will like be so happy.
My stepmom was raised in a trailer in LA.
Yeah.
And she cooks food that would be bespoke of a trailer in LA.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cream of mushroom. There's a lot of cans being opened in the making of this meal. And there's a lot of fats. There's competing fats. There's fat over here. There's fat over there. Let's put another fat on top of that fat. And it's beautiful. And she's like, Detroit, did you like it? You could tell, like, this woman is never nervous around me in my entire life, and she gets nervous when she cooks a family meal for me. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. This is, and it genuinely, I'm not just saying that to say that. I'm not just saying that because I want to be precious around my parents and make them feel good about their lives. I probably should, and I do, but I'm saying that because it is genuinely the best meal is the one that's right in front of you with the people that you love, or says something, and that's. And we talk about food, and I appreciate the levels of which it can go, and I've had meals that cost me $1,700 and those chefs and those teams that work their asses off to get there deserve to be able to, charge that amount and be able to like see what they can do, the world's greatest ingredients, but the emotions will always come with something simple, the emotions will always come in, when you're rubbing your hands in your jeans, when you're just like, you're with somebody and just kind of doing this, this is the best food.
Yeah. I was always more of like a behind the hand, like back of the hand kind of wipe, but yeah.
No, I wanted the dexterity. Get
in there. Get in there. We have something very in common. We went to school for very random things that have almost nothing to do with what we do for a living now. Example, I have a degree in philosophy of all things.
That does not surprise me whatsoever. This is so fucking on brand.
Critical analysis, right?
Yeah.
And breaking things down to the point of like, why is this, right? You graduated with a degree in
poetry.
And that makes perfect sense to me too.
That is cruel and unusual punishment to be able to send a child into the world with that degree. I just got to say this. So, the story on that one is, and it's one of the best things I ever did in my life, it's funny because my dad is a dentist, and he was a dentist in San Diego. My uncle was the dentist for the San Diego Chargers. And so his practice was growing. And he said, look, just go to school, get your straight A's, go into dental school. You work 4 days a week and make good money, and you'll be secure.
Yeah.
And I was 3.5 years in. I was doing really well.
Yeah.
I had straight A's. I was a national honor student and everything else. My dad came downstairs and he goes, dude, I'll keep you in school as long as you want. Just don't become a dentist. Dude. He's like, it is like an assembly line with halitosis. You will hate it. You're a creative kid. I do the same 6 procedures all day long with people that don't want to be around me. He goes, do something creative. I don't think he thought I'd go that creative.
To be fair,
he was like, maybe architecture or something usable in the working world. So I didn't know what to do. So the other part of my degree was the funniest thing is I was terrified of speaking in public. That was my biggest, I swear to God.
Nobody would believe that today.
My dad and I, about a mile and a half from this studio, sat down with our course catalog for Chico State. And I went, I am interested in none of these things. I'm like, so I think the best thing, and it's probably the most prescient or philosophical moment of my life. Yeah. I was like, the best thing I can possibly do if I don't know what I want to do is conquer my own fear. And so I said, I'm going to use what are my two biggest fears? And I said, speaking in public is one, and I'm like, I'm going to make myself get a speech communications degree. And and not being creative enough. My mom was a big writer. She was a big reader, and I always wanted to live up to that. And my fear, and my mom's a very benevolent woman. She's not in any way like kind of like, you must be good. But I wanted to live up to her dreams for me. She always said, anytime I used a big word, great word, that was her way of showing me love. So I wanted to make sure that I was creative enough to honor our tradition together, not to live up to her, but to honor our tradition together. So first couple of semesters I was in Chico State at speech communications, I got a panic attack every single day. That was Chico State's gift to me, was a panic attack every single day in college. I would get on that podium in front of 30 people. I would talk gibberish. I swear to God, that tunnel vision.
Oh my
sweats.
gosh!
I mean, I tortured myself for a semester and a half.
What do they call that? Exposure therapy?
Yeah, it was. It was my fight or flight response, going like flight,
red alert,
flight.
Yeah.
And so I'm literally panicking and sweating in front of these university students and my professor. And I kept on doing it. And one day, a year and a half later, I stepped up to the podium. And I got there waiting for the panic attack.
And it was gone.
It was so gone. I was completely calm. I was in my element. I gave this best speech, probably said the best speech I've ever said. I've been on 20,000 hours of TV.
Yeah.
That was probably better than all the work I've ever done.
Woo!
And I just nailed it. I was like, oh my God, okay, now I know how to speak in front of people. So I graduated with a speech communications and a poetry degree. And I'm thinking I'm the most useless college graduate to come out of the American school system in 70,000 years, and I end up using both of them, right? They're both my advantage. So when we're on Food Network, and I want to say something salty, I have 7 metaphors for that. If I want to say somebody else would eat a burger and be like, that's rich. And I'd be like, what is that like? That's like eating Morgan Freeman's voice. It's that rich. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit.
Where does this stuff come out of your brain though? Like
sitting in front of a poetry book for 3 years.
That's wild.
You're reading these wild associations that sound crazy. Yeah. And I think people ask me that a lot, in terms of how does that brain work? And I'm like, this brain sat in a poetry book for 3 years in its most formative years. Yeah. And then you spoke about community. I mean, for me, it was always about San Diego. I grew up in the creative scene in San Diego. I wrote about music. I had an underground TV show.
All right, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
Because you're going to start doing the Troy thing where you just start, like he should have been an auctioneer. Have you ever done that, by the way?
Every producer has ever been in my ears like, do you realize how fast you're talking?
I mean, like low-key part of me wonders if you're Latino. Because you're like,
I'm trying to speak to myself in Spanish.
That's my God.
I'm trying to learn it.
Is that what it
speed.
is? Slow it down because I want to slow you down because I don't want you to gloss over this because I think a lot of people don't know that you're actually born and raised San Diegan.
Yeah.
And that you did not actually ever want to be in food.
No.
You started in what?
Started in music. So I got the poetry degree. I started writing about music because I was always into the Smiths, The Cure, Bad Religion, all this underground. I started getting deeper and deeper into underground music when I was a kid. And I just loved the creativity. I loved the poetry of it. I loved something just clicked with my brain. And so through using poetry, I was able to, describe it in ways. Poetry was really helpful to describing music in ways that made people think.
Yeah.
And it was I used every song as a way to kind of analyze humanity and where we're at in a city, as a culture, as the United States, in the world, everything else. It had worked. So I wrote for Rolling Stone. I did Spin magazine. I was a music editor in San Diego. Well, I was a music editor before internet music started. What I would get is 300 CDs across my desk. 80% was total crap. Mainstream radio and MTV were the only ones that could play new music because there was no MP3s. So they could only play 1%. There's this magical 80 to 99% where like TV on the radio, Modest Mouse, Black Keys, Peaches, Jurassic 5, all of these bands were there.
Yeah.
And I convinced a new studio in San Diego. I'm like, hey, if I hang a black curtain, come on in here and ask these bands to come on while they're touring through town, will you let me have them on? And they did. They're like, you have any TV experience? I'm like, so much.
So much.
Zero.
Fake it till you make it, baby.
Absolutely zero. Had another panic attack the first time they turned on that camera. I swear to, I mean, full panic attack. That 3, 2, 1. I had to talk for a half hour. They didn't quite have the format down, so I had to talk for a half hour at this camera, freaking out. And so anyways, we had Maroon 5's first ever television performance. We had the Buzzcocks, Black Alicious, Jason Mraz, Brandy Carlisle, all these bands. We're having fun. We had real opinions.
Yeah.
We were talking about music in ways that people didn't talk about it. People were always like, this is amazing. This is amazing. I'm like, this kind of sucks. And here's why. And we were like coming of that pitchfort generation where, we really felt really highly of our own opinions, which honestly, looking back on it, you're like, oh, shut up. I'd like to tell myself to shut a lot. Yeah. But it was, people responded to it. And in Tijuana especially, it was broadcast in Tijuana, and Tijuana was the only place that they were getting a lot of Tijuana kids who love music. They would come up to me and say like, dude, you were the place that we got new music from. I'm like, oh, awesome. I didn't realize that. We went down, Americans couldn't care about us at all. We went down and shot a month in TJ.
Yeah.
And people mobbed us. This little like late night 12:30 p.m. or the a.m. music show.
You mean like when the national anthem starts going off?
Right, yes. Yeah, we were the pregame show for the national anthem going off. But the way I got into food really quickly to bridge that gap, was I had the pregame show for the San Diego Padres at the same time because they liked my work on that show.
Wow.
And they thought they wanted they wanted me to be the Jon Stewart of baseball.
Okay, Jon Stewart of baseball. You're like, I have much better hair. I am so much more poetic.
It was a pregame show of a pregame show. You don't need that much foreplay for baseball. Just don't. You don't. I mean, just get it. It's 82 games a year. So anyways, we had that for 2 years. The recession hits. And I lost. I had a contract for my third season of the Padres
Which
show.
Which recession at this point, though?
2007.
Okay, got it.
So I had a contract on my desk for the third season of the show, and they called. I didn't sign it, dumbass. I didn't sign it for a week. It's like, it's going to be there. I'll sign it later. They called, and they're like, all the advertisers are pulling out of media. The recession hit. Everybody lost.
Everybody pulled their money out.
Everybody pulled their money out, and I lost both TV shows overnight, 2/3 of my income. It was, I was lost. I thought I was done as a creative. God, I had this show. It felt good. At that point, I had written a book, about growing up with a gay mom. It was put out by the guy that edited Naked Lunch by William Burroughs. It felt like my life was going pretty well.
What was the name of the book?
It was called, I wanted to call it Son of a Butch. Because...
God, that would have been so good.
Because...
Why would they not?
They were like,
oh my gosh, advertisers. Me and you got to have a conversation off the record about
probably, thank God. My great editor, his name is James, a great gay friend of mine. It was like, no, you are not doing that. You can call it that among your buddies, your frat buddies. And I'm like, okay, James, but I mean, look, I was a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I was a little son of a bitch to my mom.
Yeah.
It's a great play because the whole book was about how much I was a bigoted asshole against my own mom.
Yeah.
I was like, anyways. We put that out.
Wait, so what was the name of the book?
It was called Family Outing.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still good, though.
Okay, so
I mean, a little bit more thought-provoking, not as fun and riveting.
I know.
Not as Troy Johnson, if I would say so.
I know. Yeah, it is what it is. But we sold like 5,000 copies. All sold out.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but anyways, losing the job, those jobs, I was like, oh my God, I might have to go sell shoes or something. I don't know. I don't have any other marketable skills. I got a goddamn poetry degree.
Yeah.
And I begged for a job at a really fancy magazine, which just had really skinny women who needed a morsel of food on the cover, but they were beautiful, and the editor was a great friend of mine, Jillian Flynn, and she said, you're going to have to write about food.
Yeah.
And my first thought, literally, I can remember the moment. I was like, sorry for this, fuck food.
Yeah.
I do not want to write about food. I write about culture. I write about art. I write about hip hop. I write about jazz. What
the fuck does food have anything to do with anything?
What the fuck? Totally. And so all I had read at that point.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
I know.
like, little did you know.
I know. I was so ignorant because all I had read at that point was food writing, really from like local publications, where it was just somebody who wanted to get a free meal, and it was you could tell they were just like listing the ingredients, and I was like, what is this? There's no story. There's no meat. Where's the human being behind this?
That part.
Yeah, and so I said, absolutely yes, I would love to write about food because it's been a lifelong dream of mine.
Yeah,
because I needed a paycheck.
Lifelong dream.
I know. I'm like, oh my God. I love the things, the things in the triangle. Pizza. I like those. I like the way they put the carne in the asada, and they sell it only after 1 a.m.
And they were like, sure, let's do it.
Let's do it. And so there was a James Beard award-winning food writer that the magazine group had. It was Modern Luxury. And
yeah,
Brad Johnson, he wouldn't let me write about food for 3 years. He said, you just got to learn it. I mean, he was like, dude, you're not writing about it until you actually know it.
He's like, R&D, baby, R&D.
Yeah. So I gave myself a culinary degree. I literally read Harold McGee's Science and Cooking. I read the Encyclopedia of Food. Yeah. I made flashcards. It was like Beautiful Mind, right? Except for mine.
Except for less schizophrenic?
I would say beautiful is a stretch, But it was that moment, right, where I was putting together everything in this tiny little apartment. I had thousands. I mean, I'm not joking. I had this deep to the wall. Thousands and thousands and thousands of flashcards. And I would sit there every single day, every single night for a year and a half and just go douche, 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 douche. I can still name the Jamaican national dish, saltfish and a key, because of those cards. I gave myself a culinary education.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I knew it from, and this is why years later, Guy Fieri would put on this trivia show, and he was gracious enough to invite me on it, and I won it.
Yeah,
I'm like, of course I'm going to win this one. This is where I come at from food. Like, I can't cook the way the people I'm competing against. I was competing against Michelin star chefs and things like that, and I was like, but I definitely know the story.
Yeah,
I know the story, and I know where it comes from. I know the science of it, and I know the
whys and the hows and all the things.
Yeah, so that was where I came at food, and I cook, and I started cooking a lot and everything else, but I didn't want to write food, but. To your point, as you know, you don't love food probably because you're a philosopher, right? You don't love food because you want to just cook something delicious, which that's nice too,
right.
But there's a story behind it. This is why you're doing what you're doing right now.
Right.
This is why you've always done something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the very Socratic way, I want to ask all the questions about all of the peoples and all of the foods and all of the cultures and all of the things that are more derivative of food, right? As I say with this podcast, food is just the appetizer. Conversation is the actual full course meal we're sitting down for, right? Because through that conversation, you're able to open up all of these, hidden doorways into who people are. And me and you spend a lot of time on television, right? Mm-hmm. And people have these ideas made up in their heads about who we are. And food takes it from the point of disarming you out of that Troy, I'm on Food Network to Troy, I'm a human being who, loves living in the burbs and trimming his bougainvilleas. Right?
This is true. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's because I guess for me, one of my favorite things about meeting some of my heroes like you is getting to know you guys on a deeper level than just what people see, right?
Yeah,
you're the guy that obviously everyone knows for being on social media and telling them about all the best places to eat through San Diego Magazine and all the amazing stuff that you guys are doing with Herrera Studios. But food is that entry point, right?
Yeah.
Food has been that entry point, and I love that you not only took the time to learn all about it, because I think so often a lot of times people will skip that part, right? Or they'll think, especially in food, there are so many egos. Whenever someone asks me, well, what do you think led you to win MasterChef? I always say, well, it was knowing that I know nothing in the very Socratic way, because there's always going to be somebody that knows more than you do.
You just dropped Socratic.
We just thought. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? And I think that goes back to what you're saying, where it's you could be competing against some of the best chefs in the world. But like Dominique Krebs said to me one time, she's like, will you teach me how to make tamales?
Yeah.
She's like, I can make all of these fancy 3 Michelin star meals, but I don't know how to make tamales.
Yeah.
And so that's
huge.
I mean, my idol, right? My literal idol. I cried when I met her. And so oftentimes it's all of the things that you can still continue to learn, you know?
Well, and it's, for me, food is about people.
Yeah.
I tell every single one of our writers at San Diego Magazine, I'm like, that is just the entry point, the food, the dish. Understand why it's good. Understand the history of that dish. Understand the science of the browning of that and why that acid works and everything else. That's great. You need that bit of knowledge, right? Yeah. Study the science of it, but the story is that who made it. The story of birria, and how it's a story of Spanish conquistadors taking over Mexican land and bringing all of these animals, most of which were pests, and especially goats, because goats just screw like mad and they reproduce, and they eat everything in sight and they never die. They're like the vampire of herding animals, and so what would happen is that these Mexican natives would wake up and their family's food had been eaten by this damn Spanish pest. What do you do if you're a dad? I'm gonna cook that animal,
harvest that animal
underground with some delicious herbs and spices, and create a beautiful thing, which was birria, right?
Yeah.
And to me, there you go. You get a story of politics. You get a story of war. A lot of stories,
migration, right?
Migration. A lot of food stories are war.
Yeah.
It's for French colonizing Vietnam, and therefore you get the banh mi. There's that. You get the pate in the bottom. You get the pickled vegetables up top. You get the baguette.
Exactly.
There's so much you can tell that you can educate. And for me, I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
I am a just dyed-in-the-wool nerd.
Yeah.
I see anything. My wife laughs at me because I'll have now, and I hate to admit it, I point Chat GPT at things. I'm like, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? I'm like, I want to know everything in my world.
Yeah.
And that's why we built our media company. We took over San Diego Magazine 4.5 years ago. Had a baby the same week. Don't ever do that. Don't ever. Both of those things are beautiful, not concurrently,
Yes.
Everybody I talk to, all the young writers, I'm like, tell the story of the person behind it. It's always about and tell the history of it. Give me teach me something, know.
Yeah.
And so every single, you'll see me in the documents I get back from writers. I'm like, teach me. You allude to it now. Teach me it.
Yeah.
Learn it, teach it, and say it real. Don't say it pretentiously, or don't put too many big words in it. If you want to drop Socratic because you're Claudia Sandoval and that was amazingly the way she did that, sure, it's fine.
Talking about being on television, and you and I have actually had this conversation before.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misconceptions about who we are because people think they're on television all the time. They must be.
You know how much money I make?
Oh, wait. How much does the internet say you're worth?
$7 million.
7 million.
Yes.
4 million over here.
I'm like, you want some? You want some? There you go.
I don't even have pockets.
Here's my million.
Oh, man.
It is wild. It's funny because, look, Food Network's giving me a lot, so I'm not going to bash on anybody in the price structure and everything else.
Yeah.
They've given me exposure, and I'm glad to be on it.
Yeah.
But the misconception of what people think that you make, is wild.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time when I could barely pay rent. And I remember going on a cooking show and they're like, okay, well, what charity are you playing for? And I was like,
the Troy Johnson Foundation?
The Troy Johnson. My child's future. Is my child's future? Is it on the list? Can I 501c3 my child?
Is my refrigerator on the list?
Yeah. So people are like, oh my God, you're on TV. You make so much money. And the amount of people that ask you to do things for free because they assume that you're making millions. And everybody knows. I think not everybody knows this. Maybe we should all talk about it a little bit more. But no, the main stars who've earned that right. Guy earns that right. To make the money that he makes because he's a bona fide superstar.
Right.
But the rest of us that are there, a lot of people do it to promote the things that they really make money on.
Yeah.
We'll get, a reasonable day rate, but it's not, it's not changing our lives.
It's not $7 million.
It's not $7 million.
It's not even $1 million.
I rent in the suburb.
When you sent over your bio, one of the things that you mentioned was that agents would tell you that you should move to New York, and that you should move to LA, and that you'd have more work, and all of those things. We've seen that in spades. You and I both have seen a lot of people win competitions and leave San Diego. In fact, a lot of talent actually comes out of San Diego, surprisingly. And a lot of them do move away. Why did you choose to stay?
When I was the music editor for the Alternative Weekly in San Diego, it was my job to cover all these underground artists and give them their first story.
Yeah.
And I would watch all of these artists, and as soon as they got any kind of notoriety, they would leave. For me, I'm sitting in this San Diego culture, which I love. This is a city that raised me, and yes, every single agent that I've ever had has said, "Are you dumb? Are you thick? Like, go to LA, go to New York. You're a writer, you're on TV. I could get you an audition every single week." They had nothing but my welfare and the future of my family's welfare in mind. And I every single time I was like, no. Because I watched so many creatives leave this city. If every creative has to leave this city to go to LA or New York, what is this city going to be? It's going to be the Souvenir Cup of California.
Yep.
It's going to be this wasteland. What if some of us stayed? What if some of us, and I didn't do it to be a big fish in a small pond. I wasn't a big fish. I still am not a big fish. I did it too, to help build something in the place that I love.
Yeah.
I grew up in these streets. I grew up in these neighborhoods. I want to tell the stories of those people. I want to lift this city up.
Yeah.
I believe in San Diego. I believe in its proximity to the border. I believe that we have a unique international, cross-national border culture that is unlike anything in the United States.
Yeah.
And it deserves to have creatives who stay here and build it.
Yeah.
And so for better or worse, I told him no. And I was like, no, man, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to see what I can do. I make a mediocre career, here. That's the kind of career I want. And that lo and behold, that's what I did. I made a mediocre career.
You truly did.
Straight to the middle. And then my wife's like, Claire always has ideas. My wife, beautiful, love her. She goes, let's launch a huge wine and food festival. I'm like, no. So anyways, it really was her idea. But, when she presented it to me, I was like, that's the extension of what we're doing. I just want to give a shout out to all the Food Network chefs and my friends who said yes.
Yeah.
Antonio LaFaso said yes. Bo McMillan is amazing. Eric Greenspan. All of these chefs said yes. I mean, I can name them all, and that would just make your podcast like a thank you to every single one of you. Because I said, look, I don't have the money to pay you.
Yeah.
Can I fly you out, put you in a nice hotel?
Yeah.
And help me launch this thing and lift San Diego's food scene up?
Yeah.
Every single one of them said yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except for two, and I remember you forever. I'm just kidding.
It wasn't me. Because, I got that text too. And I said yes.
Yes, you did. You did.
This is the 4th year of the Del Mar Wine and Food Festival, which you guys started here in San Diego.
Holy crap.
Can you believe that?
Wow. Claudia, that first year, I nearly died. I nearly died.
But it's like, but did you die?
I did not. That's I don't think.
You're like maybe a little bit,
but this is the afterlife. I'm pretty cool with this, man. You're pretty cool.
No.
If Afterlife has Claudia Sandoval and like that hairdo,
always my friend.
So Del Mar Wine Food. I mean, we launched that. The whole idea really was, and it's nothing new, I mean, and there have been other food festivals. There's another one in San Diego. There's another, but what we're looking for a way to extend what we do with San Diego Magazine. What we do with San Diego Magazine is lift up the stories and the cultures of the people, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at San Diego, and I always wanted to lift San Diego's food scene onto the national scale.
Right.
That's why we did that.
Yeah.
I knew that it wasn't going to be a massive money maker. Ideally, one day, if we burn our blood and guts into it for 7-10 years, ideally somebody comes in and buys it and I can retire. Great. I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah.
We did it mostly because it's like, look, if I asked all the Food Network friends and people that I had met through the years, if they would come out and help use their spotlight to raise up the chefs and the food and drink people, the moms and pops and the Michelins, everybody, fishermen, ranchers, get them all in the same field, get a beautiful space, and maybe we could get those national headlines here and get national travel writers coming here and whatever, national media.
Yeah.
There was 4 of us the first year. And I remember, I have such flashbacks because when we launched the media company, that we took over a 78-year-old media company that was just coming out of a global pandemic, and it was in a total rebuild. We had a baby the same week, and it was just Claire and I. And I was working 21-hour days.
Yeah.
I was going to bed at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
I was sleeping downstairs. My wife, Claire, was nursing our baby upstairs. She was a single mom.
Yeah.
I was a single CEO.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to be a CEO. I was lost,
Yeah.
but I was learning. I was just taking it all in and just like, blah, 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 blah. But 1 a.m. I go to bed, 5 a.m. I wake up to a fire hose of emails and correspondence. And it was not like, get my coffee. It was like, okay. And then I would stop at 1 a.m. And finally we got the media company, and through like just the few friends of mine who are in the industry like showed up, people that I'd helped tell the stories a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they'd eventually made millions. You know, they called me and they're like, I got you. Your stories helped me make millions of dollars. I am going to make sure that you don't die in this dream.
Yeah.
You know, and they gave us chunks of money.
Yeah.
One of them even said, you know, like, I don't care what you do with it. I don't care if you just, you put it in your bank account to make sure that you're not dying while you do this, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, just here it is. Because you've helped tell the
awesome.
stories along the way. Long story of that is we finally got to a point where I was like, oh, we're not drowning anymore. This is starting to work a little bit. This feels good.
Yeah, yeah.
And then 4th year in, it's turned into something really, really, really special.
It is. It is.
know?
And I think that one of my favorite things is specifically what you're talking about, where you are bringing in these national chefs, but those chefs are now working with local chefs, and they're working in tandem, and they're working side by side. And it's not just highlighting the big headliners, which a lot of other festivals do.
Yeah.
It's highlighting the local talent and what they do and their stories.
Yep.
And I think that storytelling is so critically important.
Well, I thought that was crucial because there was 2 things with that.
Yeah.
One, I don't think that chefs that are celebrity chefs should be overworked. I don't think that people want to come to see them necessarily cook. And I mean, yes, you do want to see them. You see them cook on TV.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can go to the restaurant. You know, what they really want to do is they want to interact.
Yeah.
They want to say
hang
hello.
out.
And secondly, I wanted to tie them into the local culture. I wanted to create a connection. So my idea, which hasn't totally panned out, and hopefully it will this year, you know, is that, you know, Michael Voltaggio, like my idea was to take an iconic dish from a local restaurant and have Michael Voltaggio tweak it with his sauce.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Rocco DiSpirito did that with Ciccia Osteria.
Yeah.
You know, and ideally put that on menu in San Diego, you know, at Ciccia, you know, so that they're both working together, you know, and they can kind of see each other and respect each other. Because Rocco is a legend, you know, Rocco DiSpirito, but he hasn't been in the kitchen, a tiny little kitchen, and seen those guys work for probably a little while because, you know, he's gotten to a different stage in his career.
Right.
So I think it was good for him, and it's obviously so inspiring for all of our local chefs.
Speaking of really important questions, so Guy Fieri, last year you brought him as one of the headliners, and people lost their minds. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just awesome.
When I took over San Diego Magazine, he called me and he was like, "Look, man, you got one ask of me. You know, like, I will come do whatever you want me to do to help your dream." And I was like, that was so gracious. I'm like, he has so, I see his phone while we're filming together. He has 100 billion texts and everybody's asking him something. Please come to this, please come to this, please come. And he's got so many nonprofits and fundraisers. Granted, we are helping Feeding San Diego, so it is a nonprofit oriented festival. But, you know, it was really gracious of him to be like, hey, we've been in this together for a long time. I'll give you mine. Like, it could be $100,000 worth of like my time. Yeah. You know, and so the first year I text him, I go, okay, we're launching this festival. This is my ask. You know, and he never got back to me.
Year 4, you did it.
And so honestly, and this is very important to keep in context if you ever clip this for the internet, is that I respected the heck out of that. Guy didn't know if it was going to be Fire Festival, just bologna sandwiches blowing down the wind and T-Pain crying in the corner. You know, like, he didn't know what. He's like, I got to see you actually succeed at this. And so 2 years in, word got around our set at Guy's Grocery Games that the festival was really, really nice. And it was like possibly really actually excellent.
Yes.
You know, and he goes, I heard it's really good. He's like, all right, I'm coming down to San Diego this year, you know, I'll come. And so it was huge. I mean, it helped us so much, like turn that corner with the festival and everything else. And everybody was like, we had to walk him around like a zoo animal. Yeah. You know, we had to, because people were like, I mean, he's got that aura.
The inquiring minds do want to know, though, because there's a huge debate on social media. I don't know if you've seen it, but people are wondering whether Guy actually chews and eats his food. I didn't realize that people pay this much attention. I mean, my gosh, we cannot do anything, can we? But I was like, what? And so then I started going down the conspiracy theory hole where I'm like, okay, let me watch these videos for real, for real. And I was like, oh my God, he really doesn't put it in his mouth. Oh my God, he's really not chewing. Does he eat? You spent a lot more time with him. I think I've spent maybe like 2 different shows with him, but it wasn't like, he wasn't eating. It was Tournament Champions.
I can confirm now that Guy Fieri does not eat. has never eaten in his entire life. He just plugs himself into the municipal power grid every single night, and that personality and hair get to 175%. They let him loose on Food Network. An entire network is born. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, I know he eats because he eats off my plate specifically. And ever there's anything good, because in a competition, hey, you've been eating a lot of food and everything else, but you got to pick your battles, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I know I've got 9 dishes that are coming on this episode of Grocery Games, all right? So I'm waiting, and you go, okay, I'm not necessarily thrilled with that one. I'm like, okay, just kind of like, and the second one, you're like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's my lunch.
Yeah.
This is my lunch.
Yeah.
And I secure my little lunch on my little judging table, and I'm getting it, and Guy can tell that I'm really enjoying myself. Oh, he has stolen so much food from me. He is, and he does in fact eat. Somebody told me at one point, that Guy was going to be the smartest guy I ever met on Food Network, and I had never met him at that point.
Yeah.
Funny, interesting thing about Guy is that when I was a food critic, and I thought I was fired from Food Network, I got my show canceled. Good call. He got a really bad review in the New York Times. Really harsh review. Yeah. And because I'd been on Food Network, I was pretty public, a food critic at the time, and somebody emailed me or tweeted at me the copy of the review and said, Troy, as a food critic, what do you think about this review? And I read it, and I was like, oh, it was the worst. It was the worst example of what a food critic should ever do. Mm-hmm. It was a personal assassination. He actually had to go on the Today Show.
It was like a takedown.
He had to go on the Today Show to talk about, what this review was. It was, and I had no investment in Guy. I didn't know Guy from Adam. Yeah. I didn't know I thought I was done with Food Network. Yeah. And I was like, this is terrible. Yeah. This is a character assassination. I don't care what you think about Guy, but that is going after a human being. We should be educating people, making them laugh, giving them, like all this kind of, and give a real opinion, sure. But it was just terrible. Anyways, about a week and a half later, I get a call being like, hey, do you want to come film a episode of, a pilot with Guy? And so I'm in my trailer. We're in this LA grocery store, and there's this like a show that they kind of want to be supermarket sweets, meets chopped, meets whatever it is, and I'm like, sure, man, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Like, I think my career's over. I might need to sell shoes soon. I don't know. Like, sure. And I'm in my trailer and I'm meditating. I meditate before I go on to try and just like, get the center down and find and somebody knocks on the door and they go, Guy Fieri wants to talk to you. And I go, oh, okay. So I walk over to Guy's trailer and, and knock on the door and, and I walk in. Meeting Guy Fieri for the first time is like seeing a cartoon character come to life. You're like, he's such personality. He's got the tattoos. He's got the chains. He's 1,000% human, or unhuman. I don't know. Like superhero.
Still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And so you're like, I want to pinch him. You're like, you have teeth? You got skin? I'm like trying not to grab him, and he goes, so I heard you're a food critic. This is 2 weeks after that review. And he goes, I hate food critics. He goes, but I heard you're funny. You got one shot. And it was one of those who's kidding on the square. You're like, am I fired? I'm really fired, right? Is this what you're saying? Like I'm not really a fan of being a food critic anyways. I never really was because I just want to tell stories about food. It was the only job that would actually afford you money if you would write a critique. Anyways, I was like, okay. So one of the most releasing things of all time. I go onto this pilot. I think I'm fired. I'm like, doesn't matter what the guy say. I just started going, blah, 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 blah. I started like just letting loose all of my personality, my thoughts on food and just rambling. And Guy looks over at one point and he goes, you're just nutty enough to make this show work or something like that, And I go, all right. And sure enough, we've been filming together now for 13 years since, and so we've
Guy's
done
Grocery Games for those.
Guy's Grocery Games. That was Guy's Grocery Games. That was the pilot.
Yeah.
And 200, I mean, he's on episode 500. I'm on 200 with him.
That's wild.
That was our origin. That was our manger story together.
I love that.
And he still looks at me and goes, food critics suck. And I'm like, I know.
Troy, thank you so much for joining me on Bitefully.
I love hanging out with you.
I know. I feel like we could talk for 2 hours. It's honestly such a pleasure to have you here and to be able to kind of dig into your head while it's a little scary.
There's some dark corners.
No, truly, like I love that you're able to tell the story behind the man that everyone just only sees on television as the witty, charismatic guy that everyone loves, like and sees on their social media, right? I think it's awesome for them to get to know you a little bit more. I think you deserve that and everything more.
Well, thank you for letting me be human.
Of course.
And I've loved everything you've done, and I'm glad to see this. And your set is way better than mine on a podcast.
You're so cute.
I'm coming in here, and once you graduate and you go on to be an international super podcaster, I'm coming in here to steal your seat.
Oh, okay. That sounds good and fair.
I love you.
Love you too. Well, that was such an incredible conversation with one of San Diego's best, Troy Johnson. And I hope that if anything that you heard today sparked a food memory, I don't know, nostalgic memory about your upbringing, your culture, your migration, your family, your food, then make sure that you join us on Bitefully Pod on Instagram or wherever you find us on Spotify. Make sure that you subscribe, rate us, and we'll see you back here at the table.